Okie dokie, I am awake. Let's see if I have this going. Morning. Hi guys. Let me see if I can brighten this up a little bit. All right, hopefully that's a little better. And adjust too. There you go. Anchor it a little bit down. Hold on. All right. It's just a camera, it's a little... There we go. Maybe this is a little bit better. Alrighty. Good morning. Oof. I just felt like pain in my rib just now. I'm like, ooh, my body's just starting to wake up. I see Hans is here and Hakezu's here. Good morning. Good to see you guys. Welcome to session 40. So this week is gonna be more of a fun one because I wanted something where we could just enjoy having a conversation and just like talk about the real world a little bit. Normally I would provide like you know, conversation starters, but I think today would be more like of a video discussion. I have yet to edit the thumbnail and change it. So usually my thumbnails will let you know on YouTube, not on Discord, not on Instagram, but on Discord. I don't know why I'm saying Discord. YouTube. There you go. So normally if you go watch on YouTube, I have certain thumbnails that I use to let people know what kind of show we're having, or like what kind of live stream we're having. And I have not designed the one for video discussion yet, and also the research ones, because I should definitely do a different thumbnail to kind of differentiate like what kind of video or topic we're going to be covering today. So I'm still working on that at the moment. So for the stream itinerary, we have greetings, video discussion, questions, comments, concerns, and suggestions. So we are now at the greetings. How has everyone's mornings been? I can finally discuss with you guys about what happened yesterday. And the reason why I did not want to discuss it was because it is a sensitive topic. And more so, it's like, if I talk about it, I would start crying. So the thing was, yesterday was my late aunt's funeral. And I didn't want to talk about it on stream because it was just an emotional day for me. The day before, I went to go visit her at her awakening. So it was the first time I saw her after she passed. The last time I saw her was the day before she passed away. And what happened was she was talking to me, she was alive, you know. I still have that memory playing in my head of just me talking to her. And at that point, she wasn't able to talk anymore. She could just move her mouth, and it was just like you gotta read her lips. And then she could only communicate like in whispers, so it's kind of hard for me to understand what she was saying to me at times. But out of all the things she said, "How are you? I love you, and thank you." She said that a lot to me. And just having that memory of her being alive at that moment and then finding out the next day she passed away, it was just hard for me because I wasn't there when she passed. My parents went the following morning because they got a text message saying that my uncle reached out and said, hey, she passed away in her sleep peacefully, which was good because she wasn't suffering. And I didn't see her at that time, and that was like a month ago, and it took at least a month for the funeral process to happen. So my cousin was in charge of arranging everything. So when I did finally go to the awakening and I saw her 2 days ago, you know, of course I was crying because it was like, it's the first time it's like a person who was just talking to me, and then here she is just like still, you know, like it was a lot for me to take in terms of just processing my emotions at the time. And then yesterday it was just like the whole day I was very emotional. Like I would start crying out of the blue. I remember I was just like listening to Trash Taste when I was driving to work, and they just talked about something sad on their podcast, and the moment they just brought it up, I just started crying, and I was just thinking, my god, my emotions are everywhere. Even yesterday when I was at work, my kids were performing like a song or something, and they were singing like a song that kind of gave like gospel kind of vibes, and when I heard it, I just started crying, and I was just like, man, this whole day. Yesterday I was crying a lot, so it was just like, if I had brought it up during the stream yesterday, I think I would have started crying during the stream. So that's why I decided, you know, like I don't want to talk about it. I need my time to just focus on what we're doing and then just get everything done. So yeah, yesterday I did not stream, and I forgot to write a message on it because as soon as I ended the stream, I started packing for work. And then while at work, I was thinking about it too. I was like, I should be posting something on Discord, but then I was just like, I kind of hit the ground running because when I walked into work, I was like, oh yeah, they have performances. I don't know what's gonna look like today. I don't know what my schedule is. And then I left work early because I requested a half day off so I could leave around lunchtime and then drive back from LA to um yeah, I left LA and I went back to Cyprus because there's a place called Forest Lawn. That's that's the place where she was buried at. So we went there and we went to the chapel and we also witnessed her getting buried. So yeah, it was a very, very, very emotional day. I cried so hard because I grew up with this aunt, and I think this is the first time someone very, very close to me had passed away. So it's a shock for me. And a lot of times when it comes to processing these emotions, it's like I go into a state of shock and then later on I start to feel it more. So it's just kind of like the ripples for that. Akezu says my condolences. Thank you so much, Akezu. Yeah, it was rough just because of just kind of being in shock because there was just someone in my family or someone I was really close to who just passed on, and it's just really devastating, you know? And I have a lot of memories with this aunt because her oldest son is someone around my age, and we're not family, like blood related at all. We're just family friends. As far as I know, this uncle and aunt, they were college friends of my dad, and I just kind of grew up accepting that they were like just family to me, you know? So as a result of that, I was just thinking, I just accepted that my cousin, I call him my cousin, even though we're not cousins. That's just like a Filipino thing. You end up having a lot of aunts and uncles, and sometimes you don't realize that they're not blood related to you, so you're just like, okay, they're family friends, but apparently they're just cousins. But anyways, I just felt a lot for my cousin because he was the one in charge of everything, and talking to him about it, I was told that his mom's request was that he was in charge of taking care of everything because I understand my uncle probably just had a lot to just deal with or accept, you know? So they just needed to do that. Hello, Never Give Up. Thanks for your greeting. Thank you for joining me on YouTube. Oh, Zen! Zen840. Hi, Zen. Good to see you. Thanks for joining. Yeah, so I don't know if it gives away or anything, so I just wanted to address. That's why I didn't want to talk about it yesterday, was just that whole process of just allowing myself to grieve, and I needed that. I don't know if it's obvious. I don't think it is, because looking at the video, I don't think my eyes were swollen yesterday. They were really puffy because I was crying so much saying goodbye to my aunt, you know? And yeah, I'm just gonna hopefully visit my cousin and his siblings more often because, you know, it's just like this is a rough period. He's standing very, very tall in this, and like he's brave and mature, and I'm very, very proud of him. So yeah, and as well as his siblings too. His younger siblings are taking this with stride. I mean they lived through this their whole life, so they kind of were prepared. So I'm very proud of them for just, you know, being professional and just being mature and, you know, just accepting. Like, I just admire them for that, and I hugged each one of them, you know, letting them know that if they really need anything, I'm there for them. They just need to just call me or just message me on Instagram, as we're there for each other. So yeah, that was basically that happened yesterday. It was a lot. But other than that, it's just I just needed to process all of my emotions there. I'm feeling better now because it's just like I had that day to just cry and just get everything out of my system. Of course, I could have came home and did the grammar if I chose to, but I was in a condition where I was like, my eyes are swollen and I'm surrounded by family. So we were technically done by 6:30 p.m., but I was just like, you know, I have family from San Diego who came up here to visit us and just remember our aunt together, and I just want to spend some time with them, you know? So as a result of that, I was just like, I forgot everything that came to updating you guys, so I apologize. Nice to meet you too. Thank you, Zen. So Yeah, that's why I was just like I totally forgot about updating the Seshbot. The Seshbot messaged everyone on Discord and said, "Hey, we're gonna be having grammar today," and I was like, "Oh no, I forgot about it," because I was kind of caught up um helping my, or well, not helping, but taking care of my cousin's son. So I have another cousin who has who has a son, and my nephew loves to play video games, and I'm partially responsible for that influence because I introduced him to different games on his tablet and he started getting addicted to them. So he's been playing like the Minions Run game. I introduced him to Minecraft. Oh wait, I didn't introduce him to Minecraft. He always knew about it. Maybe he watched it on YouTube. But yeah, I got him into a lot of video games, so he's been stuck to me like glue. And my nephew always tells me, Auntie, let's play games together. Auntie, let me show you what I did today. So he's like 4, I think. I think that's how old he was. And he was with me the whole day. I mean, almost every time after the processing of the funeral. So we were just spending a lot of time together. Every time I was sitting down and doing something on my phone, he'd be like, Auntie, show me, what are you doing? Yeah, so that's why I completely forgot. It was because I was kind of entertaining my nephew on playing games together. And it's so funny because, oh my god, these kids, their attention spans are so quick. It's so funny. I download one game and he's like, Auntie, I'm bored, let's play another game. And I'm like, oh my god, stop. Also, Never Give Up says, nice to meet you too. I'm sorry to know about his death. That's okay. Thank you so much, Never Give Up. Or Zen, thank you so much for your condolence. But yeah, that's basically what happened yesterday. I was just swamped emotionally and then taking care of family too. So that's why I didn't want to talk about it in yesterday's stream and why I had to cancel. It's just I wanted to just focus on that, and now we can move on and we can just focus on today's fun conversation. So yeah, that's about it for yesterday. Alright, so hello Nilo, or Nil07SK, join on Instagram. Thank you for joining. We're gonna go ahead and get started with our next segment here. I left it as conversation practice because I was like, I don't know if I should say conversation practice or video discussion. I'm kind of teetering back and forth with today's subject, but I think I might commit to separating the themes just because it's like, okay, conversation practice, we have something that's related to grammar, and I prepare questions for you guys, whereas video discussion is more like whatever things I find online, we're just gonna have a discussion on it. So yeah, today's like the first time I'm doing video discussion in a while, so forgive me for just having things being different. So we will be looking at a video here, and I will be just pressing a lot of buttons right now because I have like this little memo to hopefully help me with adjusting the audio for you guys. Just because my laptop is so old, I'm gonna be off sync a lot, so I have to like fix the audio here before I play it for you guys. Let me see if I can do that right now. I have this on the next tab. So 1 second. Okay. Alrighty, so we have the video here. Also, I'm gonna pause this for a second. My voice might be off-centered, so I apologize, but I want to focus on this and then I'm gonna change it back. This is the first video we'll be looking at.
Your background?
My name's Mina, and I was born in Japan, and I moved in California when I was in 4th grade. So I was originally gonna move back in Japan when I turned 6th grade, but my mom was like, oh my gosh, I love the weather in California, so I came to America because of my dad's work, but my dad was like, okay, like if you guys really love the weather that much, then like we can stay. So yeah, so I guess it's all about the weather. In America, people tell me like, oh, you're so Japanese, like you're really polite, like you're kind of shy. I don't consider myself shy, but to Americans, I guess I'm shy. But in Japan, when I meet like with my Japanese friends, they're like, oh my gosh, like you became so American. And I'm like, what do you mean? And they're like, the way I dress or whatever. I don't know, it's hard to talk about, but yeah.
Can you introduce yourself in Japanese?
こんにちは。私の名前はミナで、日本の東京で生まれて、東京で9年ぐらい育ちました。カリフォルニアにずっといます。
Can you introduce your background?
My name's Mina, and I was born in Japan, and I moved in California when I was in 4th grade. So I was originally gonna move back in Japan when I turned 6th grade, but my mom was like, oh my gosh, I love the weather in California. So I came to America because of my dad's work, but my dad was like, okay, like if you guys really love the weather that much, then like we can stay. So yeah, so I guess it's all about the weather. In America, people tell me like, oh, you're so Japanese, like you're really polite, like you're kind of shy. I don't consider myself shy, but to Americans, I guess I'm shy. But in Japan, when I meet like with my Japanese friends, they're like, oh my gosh, like you became so American. And I'm like, what do you mean? And they're like, the way I dress or whatever. I don't know, it's hard to talk about, but yeah.
Can you introduce yourself in Japanese?
こんにちは。私の名前はミナで、日本の東京で生まれて、東京で9年ぐらい育ちました。カリフォルニアにずっといます。
Can you
Alrighty, so we can talk about that video basically. I played it twice for you guys, just so, you know, you guys had enough opportunity to hear it 2 times. I don't know if my screen was big enough to show the transcription or the subtitle, but it was there. And we are now gonna talk about that video. So what do you guys notice about the way she speaks? When I first watched this video, I was like, whoa, that's so interesting. I want to hear your guys' thoughts on it first, though. So take your time. I'll give you guys like a few minutes to answer the first question. Oh dear. It's fine. This is fine. Nice. So Hakezu says, she says like a lot, almost like a stereotypical blonde. Interesting that you say it like that. Interesting. Okay. I like that you said stereotypical blonde only because I like the fact that you called stereotypical blonde. We do have an actual name for that in America, or sorry, in California. It's called the Valley Girl accent. She's got it. The nuances, the way she stresses her words is very bouncy. Like, I like that I was born in America. My friends tell me I talk like this. It's kind of bouncy, the way she talks, right? That's a very Valley Girl trait in terms of speaking. So, a lot of times in TV shows, American TV shows for that matter, they typically have a lot of like blonde women have that accent, but honestly, it's not just limited to blondes anymore. Like, back in the day, maybe that's how they represented it on movies and TV series, but if you hear that accent, it's most notable for California, and we call it the Valley Girl accent. Sorry, I'm just repeating myself here. Everyone has that at some point in California, and I am not gonna deny myself of that too, because I do have the Valley Girl accent when I do talk with my friends. So sometimes it's triggered when it comes to an identity when you're spending time with certain people, right? And it's also because of the environment you grew up in. So hearing the way she talks, I can tell she's definitely Californian because of the way she has a very bouncy tone when she's talking. I just appreciate hearing that because I'm just like, whoa, she did really grow up from here. Granted, I don't know if I could say that's also in NorCal or Northern California, because I don't know what their accent is like up there. But the way I hear it, I think she grew up in Southern California, because us SoCal speakers have that Valley Girl talk. I hear it from my university when I was around when I'm also around my girlfriends. It comes out. I do have that kind of speaking mannerism, especially when I'm just like, informal. So yes, I love that she does have that because it shows two identities. Was there anything else you guys noticed about the way she speaks? Because for me, I noticed that her Californian accent, okay, so the Valley Girl comes out when she speaks Californian, so she has an identity, a very, very strong identity when it comes to being Californian, right? Or American. Whereas when she is asked to speak in Japanese, do you notice her mannerism or the way she speaks is different? Because they don't translate to be the same in terms of the way that she speaks. And I thought that was interesting, mainly because we always have this conversation about, does learning a language change your identity? And I would say because of this video, the answer would be yes. Because the way she spoke in Japanese, she said it was more gentle, it was more, how do I say, she was a little bit slower in the way that she speaks, whereas in her Californian, or I'm gonna keep saying Californian because it's very obvious she's from California. Whereas when she speaks English, her accent is very bouncy, and it's kind of like you're stressing words here and there, and you say like a lot. The expression using like a lot is very common in California. I also use it too much unconsciously or subconsciously. So I'm gonna go ahead and play it one more time so we can have that comparison. So I need to close this for a second. Sorry. Let's see. It's this one. Pause this for a second. Oh dear, I pressed the wrong button.
Introduce your background.
My name's Mina, and I was born in Japan, and I moved in California when I was in 4th grade. So I was originally gonna move back in Japan when I turned 6th grade, but my mom was like, oh my gosh, I love the weather in California. So I came to America because of my dad's work, but my dad was like, okay, like if you guys really love the weather that much, then like we can stay. So yeah, so I guess it's all about the weather. In America, people tell me like, oh, you're so Japanese, like you're really polite, like you're kind of shy. I don't consider myself shy, but to Americans, I guess I'm shy. But in Japan, when I meet like with my Japanese friends, they're like, oh my gosh, like you became so American, and I'm like, what do you mean? And they're like, the way I dress or whatever. I don't know, it's hard to talk about, but yeah.
Can you introduce yourself in Japanese?
こんにちは。私の名前はミナで、日本の東京で生まれて、東京で9年ぐらい育ちました。カリフォルニアにずっといます。
Can you introduce your background?
My name's Mina, and I was born in Japan, and I moved in California when I was in 4th grade.
Okay, we need to talk more. Okay, so hopefully this is working now. There are a lot of things I can talk about her. But first, let's move on to the next question because I feel like I'm gonna go into a rabbit hole of other topics here. What do you think makes her American? That's a fun topic to answer here. So did I accidentally close the music? Sorry. It takes a while for it to load. I don't know why it does that. Anyways, what do you think makes her American? That's just like a good opinion. You guys can respond to that. I was kind of observing her mannerism too when she was speaking. I don't know if you guys noticed, but when she moves, I'm just gonna mute it and then just play it. You might notice that her body posture is like she's moving a lot. She's moving her shoulders. She's gesturing a lot. And of course, the way she speaks, we already know what she sounds like. She sounds like a typical Valley Girl speaker. There's like nuances of having the Valley Girl accent. What we like to do is like here and there we would stress a word or elongate it. And of course, if you see her mannerism, if you watch her face and the way that she's gesturing with her body, she looks very confident, like this is her natural habitat. if you understand what I mean, like this is where she feels the most confident in expressing herself. It's like she's showing a lot of things here. But when she goes into Japanese, her body shifts and she's not moving a lot. Her eyes are looking off direction a lot, maybe because she's like trying to process the words in her head. Okay, she's starting to move. Yeah, okay. So you kind of notice when she speaks in Japanese, she's like controlled, she's calm. California, she's swaying a lot, which is funny because that is something we do. Even I do that. So I think it's just so hilarious for me. Yes, Hakezu says, looking back, seems like she was actually nervous with this interview. Yes, she was. You could definitely tell, like subconsciously her body language is telling you that she's just nervous. Like she doesn't know how to approach this or just like present herself. I feel like she looks a little bit more relaxed when she's speaking in English. You can see it in the body gesture. She's unconsciously doing these little habits. I'm not saying that everyone does it in California, but we do have a tendency to move a lot and squirm a bit. I feel like that's what we do informally or like in informal situations, especially if it's an interview that comes out of the blue. Yeah, I would be a little bit more squirmy. Like I would fidget a lot. What else was here? Yeah, and then she's more expressive with her hands too, so she gestures a lot. That's a very that's a very common thing that we do in terms of America, I guess. Which does kind of answer the question, which is what makes her American. Her mannerism, her body language, the way she speaks. Anything else you guys want to add? Because like here, I can just play it again, and then we could just observe her mannerism, because we already know what she's saying here. So she's moving her hands a lot right there. Yeah, like her mannerism here, it's just like she's more expressive, especially with her like hands. And she's swaying and moving a lot. Yeah, she's got all of the mannerism for like, I would say Gen Z, right? She's definitely Gen Z to me. And the way she just holds herself, she looks chic. I like her outfit, it's so cute. Maybe that's something that's kind of Western in terms of Japan. Yeah, so as we saw when she started speaking Japanese, she was just kind of more, she stood still. Maybe it's just in their culture was you don't sway, you don't move a lot, etc. It's just really interesting to see it, you know? Hakezu says at least one hand was covering her chest most of the time, which typically shows some reservation. Ooh, okay. Hakezu coming in with like another observation. That's actually really interesting that you say that. So it could be that, but you know, she had one hand because she's holding a fan here. This fan is, I would assume, is giving her some air. I can see her hair is kind of moving a little bit. Maybe it's like hot during this time. That's why she has this fan in front of her. The reason I know this is a fan is because I went to Miniso and I've seen this one there. So it's a fan. So interesting. Yeah. I think, but of course, I think her mannerism, not just that, but the way she speaks, the way she holds herself, the way she's looking at the camera more directly in English, when she's speaking English, sorry, it really shows that she's more confident speaking in this language. And yeah, it's just really interesting. Whereas here she seems more reserved when she's speaking in Japanese. Yeah, there you go. I would love to see, like, of course, more. If she had spent more time speaking in Japanese, maybe we'd see more. So far it was just like, what, a few seconds seeing the way that she spoke in Japanese. We can't really tell if that's really the mannerism of how they're supposed to be in Japan, you know? So it's really interesting seeing, like, the way she was speaking, because I would have loved to hear like maybe 2 or 3 more questions to see if her mannerism would change when she's speaking in Japanese. But you can definitely see that she has kind of a dual personality with English and Japanese. So it's interesting. Hello, Aaron Kin. Welcome. Okay, so we just answered the question. What do you think makes her American? Alright, what do you think makes her Japanese? We kind of already addressed that a little bit. I mentioned that her body language was one of the things that we noticed, that she became more reserved. She wanted to, like, I guess it showed like she's being a little bit more professional or mindful of her habits when she's like speaking in Japanese. That's one that we saw. What else do you think would make her Japanese? And also take your time. Of course, what makes her Japanese is, of course, the way she looks, right? We can tell by just looking at her. She is a Japanese woman. She was raised, and she also mentioned in the interview that she was born in Japan, but she grew up in California. And because of her dad's job, she was traveling between Japan and California at the time. So because her mother liked the Japanese weather, and I guess this is just my observation, when you have a mom that's like, or one of the parents who are interested in the weather, I would assume that they're the quote-quote foreigner, maybe? I don't know if she's half Japanese. Maybe mom could have been like, you know, Japanese raised in America. That could be the case. And maybe mom was taken back to Japan and she liked the weather in Japan. So that's why her mom's like, let's just stay here because the weather's great. And I think that's funny. So maybe she has both Japanese parents, or one is an Americanized Japanese parent, or maybe a different ethnicity altogether. I'm not sure. We don't know the answer for that. But yeah, I just think it's really interesting. And the way that she was talking about in her interview as well, we mentioned that her friends commented that she doesn't seem Japanese, you know, her mannerism and stuff. Yes, so Hakezu said her mom liked the California weather. Okay. Okay, that must have been an error on my part. So here, I'm gonna play it again.
And I moved in California when I was in 4th grade. So I was originally gonna move back in Japan when I turned 6th grade, but my mom was like, oh my gosh, I love the weather in California. So I came to America because of my dad's work, but my dad was like, okay, like if you guys really love the weather that much, then like we can stay. So yeah.
Okay, you're right. My apologies. So yeah, the mother liked the weather in America, not Japan. I apologize. So okay, the mother. Now from this, I understand. Okay, so both parents are most likely Japanese, but the mom went to America and she's like, I like the weather, so let's stay here longer. Love that for her. California weather, you either like it or you hate it. And something to say about if you're from America or from California, you know what I mean when I say we have really weird weathers daily. One day it could be raining, one day it could be really cold, and then in the afternoon it could be really hot. The weather here sucks. Like, I mean, I've been here for like most of my life. I grew up in California since I was 4 years old and up to 20, like now I'm 28. So actually, am I 28? I forgot. How old am I? Guys, I'm forgetting my age. Jeez. Yeah, I'm 28 now. I'll be 29 this year. Then next year I'll be 30. Oh my god. Yeah, because I'm looking at the year and I'm like, shoot, I forgot how old I am. It's getting to the point where I forget my own age, so I apologize. But anyways, I digress. The weather in California, the daily weather kind of sucks because it changes drastically. I don't know about you guys, but I feel like California is under we're under a certain ozone that changes the weather so differently, and it's just wild to me because in the morning I would wear a thick jacket because it's so cold in the morning. Next thing you know, the sun's out and it's hot, and it's like, why did I wear this jacket? Yeah, if you live in California, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But anyways, addressing Hakezu, her American friends think she's very Japanese, but her Japanese friends think she's very American. Yes, so I like this conversation here because I've been in that situation many times because I'm also, you know, I'm full Filipina. Like, my parents are both from the Philippines, and growing up in California, it's like I'm loud. I'm like, I don't know if you guys have watched a lot of American, I'm sorry, not American. If you guys have witnessed Filipino films, Filipino series, or like saw like Filipinos acting on TikTok or Instagram, we're known for being super obnoxious and loud. And it's very true. So for me, it's like when I'm in America, it's like my attitude. A lot of my classmates back in the day, they were not happy with the way that I acted because they're like, "You're so obnoxious, blah blah blah. Why you gotta be so melodramatic?" So it's kind of that kind of attitude changed me when I was young because I felt like, okay, I can't be myself because acting like that personality would make me stand out because it's not American behavior to be that obnoxious, you know? And I noticed this too because sorry for going off tangent a little bit. I went to a dance studio this last week, and apparently there's a woman there who is attending the tango class with me, and every time she makes a mistake, she would be like, "Oh!" like that. She'd be like super loud and obnoxious about like announcing her mistakes and stuff. And it's, you know, it's obnoxious because like, why do we need to announce when we make mistakes? But for me, it's normal because that's just how Filipinos are. When we make mistakes, we make noises about it. And it's just like, again, it's just the way we are. And I can see why it would be bothersome for Americans because we don't do stuff like that. We don't announce our mistakes. Whereas Filipinos are just like, we accept it. Whatever we do, it's whatever. So yeah, it was just kind of interesting having this conversation here that you're obnoxious if you are being Filipino, acting your culture. But when I go to the Philippines and I'm acting like the way I am in California, they would be like, "You're not Filipino, you're more American." I've been through that, so I know exactly what she means. And we can also witness that in the way that she represents herself in this interview. It's just like she's super comfortable speaking in English, representing herself in the way that she dresses, the way she speaks, the way her hand gestures are like moving during the interview. And in Japanese, she's just like a different person in her mannerism alone, I would say. So it's really interesting to see that, because this is where I would say is where the 1.5 generation, that there's a term we call it, yes, 1.5 generation. It means you grew up in you had a different culture, and then you grew up in another culture. So it's like you had kind of the best of both worlds in a way, but you can't really fully assimilate to one of them. So she went through that in terms of she can't be seen as fully Japanese by her friends, and her American friends will not see her as fully American because she doesn't have the American expected behavior, if you will. So it's really interesting to see that, right? So yeah, I went through that myself, so it's really interesting to see other people's perception and experience on that. And it's also comforting to know that I wasn't just the only one who went through that kind of treatment, or like, it's not bad treatment. I mean, of course there was, because it's a cultural difference and some things that were not accepted in either culture, but it's just like interesting to see that, you know, it's not just limited to what I went through, but seeing her go through it too. Let's see. Okay, now we've arrived at this question, and I think it's interesting to ask you guys. Do you think she's more American, Japanese, or both? And then go ahead and explain to me why. Why do you think she's more of that? I also had a second video lined up just in case if we were gonna keep going, but I'll save it for tomorrow. So yeah, I love video discussions just because we get a lot of insight on them. Okay, still feel free to type. Take your time on it. Takezu says probably more American since she's been in America since the age of 4. Okay, that's interesting. Interesting that you put it that way. Because honestly, there's no wrong answer. There's no right answer either. It's just how you perceive it. So I like that you mentioned that you see her as more American since she's been in America since the age of 4. Okay, that's a good observation. My perception of her is that she is both, but it depends on the language. Only because my thought of this is just coming from my own first-hand experience. It's just my personality kind of adjusts whenever I speak in a language. So I think... Sorry, I'm just yawning for a second. I think for her, it's just her American personality comes out when she's speaking English. And of course, like Kaikezu also mentioned, that since she was born, or sorry, not born, because she was raised in America since she was 4 years old, she had a very strong like background and influence from being born in the American system, if you will. And she's used to that. And she looks like she's more comfortable speaking in English than Japanese. I also think she's more American because the way she represents herself, you know, like in fashion, for example, the way she dresses, it also shows that she's definitely more Western, because she likes to represent herself as someone embracing that kind of clothing. And I think the way she dresses is a little bit revealing. I say revealing, quote, quote, because in America, that's not revealing. We don't show, we can show our shoulders. She's wearing something that's like see-through, so you can kind of see her shoulders, but it looks normal to me. It's not revealing at all. But in the Japanese standard, it might be revealing because she's showing a lot of skin. But I think it's also showing in the way that she, you know, carries herself. I think that's the most important thing, is that when you see the way someone represents themselves by the way that they dress or their mannerism, sometimes that reflects more of the unconscious idea. I shouldn't say unconscious, I should say subconscious. Because I keep saying unconscious, because I think like it's just kind of ingrained in me. Unconscious means that you're not awake, you're not aware, you know? Subconscious means you're awake, but you're doing something in the background that you're not aware about. So that's why I'm trying to differentiate these two. So subconsciously is the correct word I should be using. But anyways, she's subconscious of her mannerism and the way she represents herself, maybe in the way that she dresses, the way she speaks, the way that she moves her hands and stuff, gesticulates. So it's really interesting to see, like, it's more of a subconscious way to understand a person. So I think, yeah, she's more American in terms of her subconscious behavior. And she looks more comfortable in that as well, because in the interview, she looks more comfortable explaining herself and her thoughts in English than it is in Japanese. But of course, it could also be that the person who, I think Takeshi was his name, Takeshi didn't give her enough time to speak in Japanese, so we don't really know much about her personality and her subconscious mannerism when it comes to the interview, because we didn't have enough time to see how much more she could react in terms of like answering questions in Japanese and how she would be different, you know? So it's just really interesting to see that. All right. We do have one more question, I think. Do you know someone who has a similar experience? Hakezu, I'm curious about you and your experience. Do you have a similar experience in terms of this? Because I want to know more, because I'm going to be honest, I have really, really bad memory. I don't know if we've met in person, and I apologize for that. I'm trying to remember who you are, and it's just like, goodness, I just don't remember. Like, my memory is just so poor lately, and on top of that, I just wanted to know, like, if you had a similar experience, if you had something to compare between you speaking English or learning English in America, because I know you live in SoCal now. But did you also have a similar experience, or you know someone who did? And I think this is perfect, because I think this is the last question before we end today's stream. And we'll save the next video for tomorrow, because I was thinking about using it today too if I ran out of like discussion ideas and just talking about this. Oh, so Hakezu says we haven't. I found you through something else, lol. Oh, I see. Thank you for finding me. I just think it's so interesting. You found me, yeah. And we're both from SoCal. That's awesome. Thank you. Oh, so I'm Vietnamese, so of course it's normal to change the way you act depending on who you're talking to. Yes, great point. So yeah, that's interesting. So I love that you still have your Vietnamese background, so that's amazing, Hakezu. Because a lot of times when you grow up in America, I've been reading so many books on this, and I'm... yes, so if I talk to the elderly, it's more polite and slow, for example. Yes, I love that. I love this conversation. We're kind of steeping our feet into like discourse analysis / psycholinguistics or social linguistics. They all overlap with each other. Social linguistics, psycholinguistics, and discourse analysis, which is really fun because linguistics is just studying the language, how it's being triggered, are there nuances, etc., who you're talking to. So I totally get what you mean. When you're talking to someone who's elderly and more polite, you would talk a bit more slower and using polite language. Totally get that. When I talk to like my Lola, because one of my Lolas live with me, I would change to speaking in Tagalog. Like, I talk very fast in English, and I also talk a little bit fast in Tagalog as well, but she has difficulty understanding English, so she would always tell me, speak in Tagalog, or say it slower in English so she could kind of process it. So I get what you mean. So when I talk to my Lola, I would talk in Tagalog, and I would often forget a lot of words because nowadays I don't speak Tagalog as much, so I've been having a lot of like moments where I'm just like, I don't know what I want to say to my grandma. I don't know what I want to say to her because I can't remember the words or expressions. So I think it's really cool to hear that, Hakezu, that you grew up with Vietnamese and you still use the language and communicate with someone who's talking in that language. My experience, I would say, is a little unique in terms of my family discouraged me from learning Tagalog. Like, my parents did not care that my Tagalog was bad. Like, I have a very, very bad Tagalog language. So every time I want to speak in Tagalog, I would use the wrong verb tense. Sometimes I would even use the wrong word. The way I would put words together are sometimes incorrect. It's because I've never been corrected in Tagalog. My parents would just laugh, or they would just be like, say it in English, you know? Which is kind of sad, because of course I wanted to retain a lot of my Tagalog, and I could understand really, really well when people talk to me. I can respond back, but it's just like I can't respond completely in my full thoughts, because my parents never just like sat down with me and just like taught me Tagalog properly. Even though I was told by my dad that my mom's actually an excellent Tagalog speaker and that she could actually help me with speaking in Tagalog better, but my parents never saw it as a priority, because they had this whole mindset of like, you're moving to California, so there's no point of you knowing Tagalog because you're not going to speak Tagalog, you're going to speak in English. So that damage really shows and reflected in my speaking in Tagalog with people. So sometimes I do feel really embarrassed when I speak in Tagalog, because I'm hyper aware of how broken my Tagalog is when I speak to people. So it's kind of sad for me. And my sister, for her, she lost it completely. We have videos of when we were just like, you know, still young. We were babies when we came to America. The first year, we have videos of my sister speaking Tagalog when we were eating at McDonald's. And then she progressively just lost it. Like, she can't even speak Tagalog anymore. My sister completely lost her Tagalog accent. She can't even put words together anymore. She can only understand. That's it. Which is kind of sad. And I feel like that result is the reason why whenever I talk to like my students who also have children of their own, I always tell them like, okay, if you're interested in having your kids learn like 2 languages, always reinforce them like speaking both languages, because at some point the child's gonna make a decision that I don't want to learn this language, so I'm gonna abandon learning this language altogether. Which is something my sister made that decision subconsciously when she was younger, because she made a lot of friends who spoke English, so she abandoned Tagalog because she didn't see a purpose of speaking in Tagalog. She probably did not prioritize speaking in Tagalog a lot with my parents either, because what's interesting is that when you're speaking a language to the child, if you don't encourage them to speak in their mother tongue language, so like for my sister, in Tagalog, for example, my parents never questioned that she spoke in English. So she kind of crossed that bridge where she was like, okay, I'm just gonna speak English to my parents from now on, because they're gonna understand anyways. And that's just how her brain kind of wired it, I would say. Whereas for me, it was important for me to talk in Tagalog because I already had this establishment in my head when I was little, or when I made that decision when I was young, subconsciously, that to me Tagalog was my relationship to my parents. So I retained it and I made it an active choice. And I also had my grandparents who spoke to me in Tagalog, so I felt like I needed to talk back to them in Tagalog too. So I had more of a reinforcement when it came to Tagalog. I saw it as, I'm the older sister, I have responsibilities to talk to my grandparents in Tagalog, so I'm gonna retain it. Whereas my younger sister, you know, she's kind of relaxed and stuff. She probably just thought, oh, like, Ate is gonna take over for this, so she's like, I'm gonna chill. I don't need to know Tagalog that well. I'm not saying that this is what she said. I'm saying this is probably what her observations were when she was younger. Because child development, when it comes to language learning, it's really interesting. That's why it's important that if the children can find a relationship with the language that they're learning to things, they have a higher chance of retaining it. Because if you don't reinforce it, they can make the choice to abandon it altogether, which is a reality of my sister and I. Han said, my parents also discouraged me from Tagalog, so I can only understand and can't speak. Oh, there you go. So Hans also had a similar experience. So yeah, as you can see, we have like parents who just didn't care about us knowing our Tagalog, because I think another way to talk about this, and I'm sorry I'm going off topic a little bit, it's just like my parents had this like kind of like I don't know if I should call it colonial mentality. I don't know. But in the Philippines, we have a really good relationship with Americans because, you know, the Americans also helped the Philippines with World War II and stuff. So we have a positive relationship with America. So the way they perceive it was, I don't know if I mentioned this to you guys. Countries have a prestigious language, right? So in Japanese, for example, their katakana is their prestigious language, and it's, or sorry, not katakana, the kanji. There you go. Kanji is their prestigious language because they have a tier when it comes to writing systems: hiragana, katakana, and then kanji, right? So a lot of times in different cultures and languages, we have an influence from said language to influence the way that we speak. And it's also sometimes it's because of influence, right? So since America had a good relationship with the Philippines, the perception of the Filipinos is that if you speak English, that is the prestigious language. That means you are on like a high level, you know, especially if you're someone who's from the Philippines. You were born there, you came to America, then you come back, people see you differently because they're like, oh, you're more American, that's awesome, that's really cool because you're much more confident, the way you carry yourself is cool, it's matching whatever we see on TikTok or Instagram, I don't know, because right now English is it's the lingua franca internationally at the moment, especially because of social media. We see English as the dominant language right now. It's a prestige language. So in that case, my parents came from that kind of culture and like from that environment where they perceive that, you know, you don't need to know Tagalog because once you go back to the Philippines, they'll adjust to you because you know English and it'll force them to learn their English better. And I'm just like, but I want to connect with them in Tagalog, you know? So it's just like that. Also, I'm gonna pause for a second and read what Pakezu said. Sounds like my oldest brother who was born in Vietnam. He intentionally did raise his kids in California to not speak Vietnamese because he believed they should speak English in America. Exactly. So it's like, what is your perception of it? Do you think that your children are gonna go back to your country and speak your mother tongue language? Or are you gonna like encourage them to like, do they need to know Vietnamese, you know? A lot of times, well, at least from my perception now of my friends and I, when we talk about this kind of topic, we said that it's important for people to know their mother tongue language because you never know if they wanted to learn it, you know? So, of course, now that I'm an adult and reflecting on my linguistic experience, my biggest regret is I should have requested and asked my mom to be willing to teach Tagalog to both me and my sister because we would be better communicators if we had reinforced that idea. But back in the day, my sister and I didn't care about languages. We had other things to worry about, like video games, like dumb dramas when we were young. Yeah, it was just language was not our priority other than like the other time that I just learned like Spanish, for example, for school. But that's about it, which is kind of sad to say. So, of course, everyone is entitled to their opinion and for language learning and stuff, but it just feels like honestly, like from my experience alone, I feel like I missed out, you know? Hans also says, now I actually just use American version of Tagalog with American pronunciation. I feel like missed out on Tagalog too. Yeah, exactly. I feel that. It's just kind of frustrating too, because it's like, of course, my cousins could adjust to me and family could adjust to me speaking English because they would see me as like, oh wow, look at my American cousin, my Filipino cousin who was raised in America and who could also speak Tagalog. It's really cool, whatever. But it's just kind of embarrassing. I don't want to speak in Tagalog because of how broken it is. I feel like I missed out on the opportunity to connect with people better if only I could express myself better, you know? So, yeah, it's just like, honestly, take what you will from this conversation or this discussion when it comes to being bilingual. It's up to you if you want to like have families of your own in the future, if you want to have them become bilingual speakers, because you never know. I think for me personally though, as an adult, I just wish I was reinforced more, just because I could have connected better with my Filipino speakers. my friends who are from the Philippines, and even if I wanted to communicate and practice in Tagalog, it's just like I feel not as confident as I am to express myself in Tagalog versus in English, especially when I have a lot of like moments where I'm just like I can't remember the words at the top of my head. It's very, very frustrating because the moment I hear it, I know it, but when I want to recall it and say it, I can't use it because I can't remember it. So a lot of brain fog happens and it sucks. It's so frustrating. But yeah, we're gonna go ahead and see, or like skip to the end here. This is for tomorrow. We're gonna be talking about this American man speaking Japanese, and we'll talk about more of the opposite perspective on this. So we are skipping all the way here to questions, comments, and concerns, or suggestions. What did you guys think about today's stream? And I'm aware I went overtime by like 10 minutes. It's okay. This is fine. This is perfect. I have to get ready for work in a bit too. Hikazu says thumbs up. Thank you. I'm always grateful for feedback. Yeah, I think today's conversation was fun for me too because we were able to share our experiences and also observe someone else's experiences too. Yeah, so tomorrow we'll talk about the opposite perception or perspective. It's an English speaker speaking in Japanese and what you think about it. He also said some really interesting things and I want to hear your guys' thoughts on that. So without further ado, here are my informations again. I have conversation practice Tuesday through Thursday. I just put the umbrella conversation practice, but here and there it's going to be like some are specific, some are not. Maybe some days I'll do a video discussion from something I found from the wild on the internet. Sometimes I'll talk about a research that I spent some time on creating. But all in all, it's just an opportunity to practice like speaking English or having a conversation together. Hans said, good job starting promptly at 5. I know, lately I've been waking up at 4:30, which is great. So yeah, I want to keep this process going. So fingers crossed that this will still happen. You're so funny. I know, I'm doing my best. I'm doing my absolute best in this. Alrighty. So, yeah, apologies for yesterday, no grammar lesson just because of what I had to go through. But other than that, I think I'm good for next week. Hopefully nothing else happens. And yeah, that's basically it for today's stream. So I hopefully will be back here again tomorrow. Most likely I will. I already have everything prepared. Let's just... What's today? Wednesday? Yeah. Wednesday's good. Yeah, I'll be here tomorrow. I will be able to attend. I'm like debating about my schedule too again because I don't know. I kind of want to go dancing again tonight. Who knows? Maybe. It's just a big maybe for me. But I won't be staying out late, which is good. As long as I'm home around 8 or 9, we're in business. But for Thursday, that one's different because I come home a little bit later because it's a Thursday night and Friday nights too. But yeah, other than that, we're just gonna keep hoping for the best that I start my streams at 5 o'clock and that I start moving around 4:30 because lately I've been waking up at 4:30 and I'm just like, okay, I'm moving, which is good. It's good progress. So let's just hope I keep it up from this point on. Alright, so, thank you so much, Hikazu. Zen840, if you're still here, thank you. Hans. Yeah, won't keep you too late. Yeah, I should get going because I need to pack my lunch and then go to work. And I still need to wake up. My brain is starting to go like at this point because I've just been speaking in English for an hour and I get tired after some time. But it's fine. I'm here. I'm alive. Alrighty then. I'm gonna go ahead and head out, guys. Hakezu, you are You are a Chad for waking up at 5 a.m. just to watch a stream. Hans, you too. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you guys for coming out and just watching the stream and just waking up so early with me in the morning. Go back to sleep if you need to. And I will see you guys tomorrow for the next conversation topic. So, yeah. See you then. I wish you all a good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Stay hydrated, get some water, eat something healthy, and I wish you all good health, a good day, and we'll talk again tomorrow morning and do this all over again. Okay. Bye guys. Take care.